Hello, and welcome to part 2 of our study guide review. Now, if you didn't see part 1, the point of this is to go over what's going to be on the study guide. Again, spoiler alert, make sure you do the study guide first, or else this video spoils everything. And you know that the test is going to be like the study guide, so if all you do is copy what's on this video, you're not learning anything and you're not going to do well on the test. Alright, we want everyone to do well on the test coming up. So, let's go. Alright, so in part 2 we're going to cover essentially page 2 of the study guide. And it starts here with number 5. This is an inequality. And on this inequality, representation of a set of real numbers, select all that apply, write yes or no on each line. Okay, so first question, -3 is a solution. Well, I see -3 right here, and it's got an open circle. And again, what open circle means every single number up to -3, but does not include -3. So is -3 a solution? It's not in the shading, it's in the open circle. That is a no. I wrote that really big. That's okay. -4. -4 is over there. It is outside the shading of the arrow, so that is definitely not a solution. 2 is not a solution. Okay, so this is kind of tricky. Here's 2. It's in the shading, so it is a solution. So saying it is not a solution is a false statement. So to that we have to say no. Same reasoning for 0. 0 is not a solution. It is a solution. -2 is a solution. Well, it's right there. It's in the shading. So that must be true. That is a yes. Alright, really, I guess with this slide, you're just checking to see if you got them correct. And there's not much work you can do, but maybe write yourself notes in that after column about maybe the double negatives, open circle, things like that. Okay, number 6. Carson gets paid $5,000 plus 15% of all his popcorn sales. It's a pretty good salary for a popcorn salesperson. While Michael gets a fixed salary of $5,500. Write an inequality that represents the dollar amount of sales Carson must generate in order to make more than Michael. Okay, so here's how I'm going to approach this. I'm going to do two sides to this. I'm going to say Carson, and I'm going to have a side for Michael. And ultimately, we want an inequality that represents the dollar amount of sales that Carson must generate in order to make more than Michael. So we want Carson to make more than Michael. So it's going to be Carson is greater than Michael. So on the left here we have Carson gets paid $5,000 plus, that's very clear key that we're going to do $5,000 plus 15% of all his popcorn sales. Okay, so be careful that this is not telling you that it's 15% of 5,000. Carson gets 5,000. The 15% is of his sales, which we don't know. So we're going to represent that with a variable. We'll say X. And 15% we need to turn into a decimal first, so we're going to do 0.15. It needs to be a decimal because we don't really work with percents in equations. We turn them into decimals first. And like I said, popcorn sales is going to be X. That needs to be greater than what Michael makes. Michael simply makes $5,500. And since it just says write an inequality, that's our answer. Okay, I suppose if you had to solve, I would subtract 5,000 from both sides and then divide by 0.15. Alright, moving along here, the second page doesn't look too bad. Mr. Venn knows that 90% of his students will score no more than 3 points above or below the class average of 80% on the test. Write an inequality that represents the range of average test scores of 90% of his students. Now, this question, there's some information that really is unnecessary, and I can read it with 100% without the average test scores of his students. Mr. Venn knows that his students will score no more than 3 points above or below the class average. So it's really just kind of just to throw you off. So beware. Maybe that's something you write in your after column. If I want to write an inequality, I need to, well, it's 80% is the average, and I need 3 points above or 3 points below. 3 points below 80% would be 77. 3 points above would be 83. And all students in the class, or 90% of the students in the class, will score somewhere between there. So we're going to put our x in between the two values. And this is, again, a compound inequality, a nested inequality, because so we're going to need two. We're comparing two different things. Comparing x to the 77 and the 83. We know that 77 is the smallest amount. So that means that x is going to be greater than 77. It says no more than, so it can be 77. So I'm going to put my equal to signs here. And when you have compound inequalities, besides the fact that the symbols should always be going in the same direction, x also has to be less than 83. So it has to be between 77 and 83. This is our inequality. If you had to do a graph of this, it would just be two closed circles, and the shading would go between. Alright, and number 8. Abigail scored a 93 and a 91 on her last two tests. Her goal is to average between 94 and 96 for all three tests. Determine the range of test scores Abigail must get to earn the desired average. Okay, now if I'm doing this one, what you need to remember is that an average of her scores is going to be all her tests added up. And she hasn't taken the third test. She scored two tests, so we can add those two. We're going to add 93 and 91. Because we know we have to add them. We have to add one more test, but we don't know what it is. So that becomes x. And to find the average, you have to divide that by the number of tests. We no longer have two tests. We have a 91, a 93, and x. So we're going to divide those all by 3. Now, we want this average to be between 94 and 96. 94 is the low value. So if you compare this to the question we just did, sort of similar in that we put 94 and 96 as the extremes. And now we got to read this carefully. To average between 94 and 96, technically it doesn't include 94 and 96. So we're going to use just less than symbols, not using the equal to sign, because technically between doesn't include that. And we want to find the range of test scores you must get. We need to solve this. Alright. So the first thing I want to do is we can do some combining like terms. 93 plus 91 is, I'm not writing here. That's going to give us 180 or plus x. Okay, so this will make things a little easier. Alright, just combine like terms. Scoot this up a little bit. Sorry, turtle duck. Oh, what happened there? I guess I gotta move everything. Okay, turtle duck. Alright, so we combine like terms, and I want to get x by itself. That's a common theme in a lot of this this unit, is we just want to get our variable by itself. So in order to do that, we're going to do the opposite of everything we're doing to the x. See, we're adding 184 to it, and we're dividing by 3. I want to get rid of this first. This is a grouping symbol, so take care of this, and then we can get into the grouping symbol. The opposite of multiplying by 3 of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. If you do that here, we have to multiply by 3 on both sides of the equation. Here it's a hua, and that leaves us with 184 plus x. And on the sides, that leaves us, let's see, 8 to 88. You guys can check my math on that. Pretty sure I'm right though. And 3 here, 282. And now if we want to get our x by itself, again sitting right here, we have to do the opposite. So my opposite here is subtracting 184. And a student today told me that they like to color code their notes just so they can keep track of when they're doing something to both sides of the equation. They want it to be a different color, just like I do here. And that's a really good tip. If you need to use color on your test, use all the color you need. So when I subtract 184, that is gone. That leaves me with a 104 over here. And that leaves me with a 98 over here. So now I guess going back to answer the question, we need to score, she needs to score between a 98 and a 104 to average between 94 and a 96 on this next test. That's to answer that question completely. Alright, and that's part 2 of our study guide review series. We're going to do part 3, and I promise in part 3 we'll do our shout outs. There's a couple that were left that I got to read. And let's see. On this page, just to again to prove that you stuck it out, watch the whole video with me. On next to number 8, why don't you just do a cool lightning bolt. That way I know that you watched the video and you'll get credit. Alright, see you guys in part 3.